Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout now, shout now, right now. Shout now, shout now. Don't wait till you make it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Phillip Show. Grab your coffee. We're in Black History Month right now, and what does that even mean? Well, for a lot of people, it is celebrating the history, celebrating the legacy, celebrating all of the things that have happened in the past. But for some, we are creating spaces that continue to tell stories. We're creating spaces where people can kind of see, can kind of feel, can kind of hear what history has meant, what it means today, and where do we go from here. I've had the pleasure of speaking to so many people from all walks of life, specifically around the impact of African Americans. And today, I am super excited to do the same. So on the show today, he is a change agent and visionary leader, and recognized by the Emmy, Cine Eagle, Angel, and International Bureau of Broadcasters Meritorious Honor Award. Listen, that's some language right there. For over 30 years, Charles W. Fox created and produced and or led the distribution of award-winning TV cultural programming for ABC, CBS, NBC, NPR, PBS, WorldNet TV networks, and or affiliates. Fox is preparing a stage version of his book in progress, Reunion, highlighting his 30-year journey and lessons learned along the way while searching for his ancestors. Please help me welcome the famous Charles Fox. Mr. Charles, how you doing?
Third generation born free.
Third generation born free. Tell me, I think I know what that means, but I would love for you to say, what does that mean and why is that even something that you highlight?
When I was 9 years old, my father commissioned artists to create a family crest that I have made into a flag that has a fox at the top, which is our last name, which was a code word that my great-great-grandmother used in her failed attempt to escape with the children. My first and middle name, Charles Washington, is the result of my great-grandfather when he learned that George Washington and his younger brother Charles would often debate over the morality of slave ownership. His brother would often challenge him on that. And he said to his younger brother Charles, and I'll remember that your name is never remembered in history. Charles was the surveyor and established the town of Charlestown, West Virginia, near the land where our family established their farms and so forth. And so my great-grandfather decided I'll make sure that his name is remembered in history by naming my first son, Charles Washington. So it's Charles Washington Fox Sr., Jr., third, and my son is the fourth.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. You've had a huge career, clearly, and you're still doing some incredible things, but you seem to be a master storyteller. The angle that you use in a lot of the pieces, a lot of the productions, you are passionate about telling stories. And I know we're in Black History Month, but why is storytelling so important to you?
Growing up in public schools, I never heard of stories. I did not know that the Desert Fathers, the first Black monks, the Desert Fathers was established by Abba the Ethiopian. I didn't know that history. I didn't know that the creator of the internet is Mr. Amigwali from Nigeria. I did not know that the creator of fiber optics was an African-American graduate of MIT. Those things weren't taught, and they're still not in the textbooks that I see in communication schools today where Black students attend. So telling your story is important so that one day in class, I held up the pictures of these inventors so the students can see them. And I said, imagine that you are looking into a mirror so that you can see yourself and your own potential. That's why storytelling is important to me.
It makes me think of, when you said that, it makes me think of how media is now, and you hear a lot of things about having representation and seeing yourself in the stories. Of course, seeing yourself factually in history. We're having, being so well versed and accomplished in the media world for you, we have so many things going on in the media world now. When you were producing and you were storytelling that way, a lot has changed. From your perspective, what has changed in media um, that makes it hard for accurate storytelling?
Ownership.
Mm,
Only 0.9% of the media in this country, that's the mainstream media, is owned by African Americans. And but with the changing technology and digital technology, it is making access to the technology more affordable
mm,
and easier to access to tell the stories now.
mm,
Um, you know, John Legend did an amazing job as executive producer of the series Underground, and it was on the CW network. But when Sinclair Broadcasting purchased CW Network, they immediately took that series off the air.
mm. Why do you think that was?
Well, Sinclair is known to be a right wing
Mm,
media organization, and they don't want stories told. I don't know what they're afraid of.
mm-hmm, mm. What's the from a historic perspective, what is the fear of not having these stories told? I always like to say, if this, then that. And we see a lot of people say, well, this might be harmful, this might influence this way. What is the harm? Let's say it that way. What is the harm in not telling the stories accurately?
A part of the story that I'm presenting is a dream
Mm,
that I had that, in short, directed me to go see my grandfather. And I questioned, why would I be told to go see my grandfather? You'd been dead 10 years. And I got reinforced,
mm,
go see your grandfather.
mm,
And so I took this journey, and on the train, I was living in Boston, and on my way down to West Virginia, go to DC, then transfer, uh, I encountered the people in the dream.
mm,
And that led to me getting an assignment to do some research on the impact of Islamic architecture in the West. So when I returned back to Boston, I went to MIT, and then I went to Harvard University and saw a big banner around the wall, the image of Blacks in Western art. A wealthy philanthropist had commissioned two French historians to archive to mine the archives of the Vatican,
mm,
and they pulled out all these stories about early African Christians, and like such as Abba Moses that I described, founder of the Desert Fathers, who became a saint. Those stories had been hidden. Saint Maurice,
mm,
who uh, was a Roman head of a Roman legion and converted to Christianity, and ordered to come to see the Caesar in Rome. He says, "I'm the divine one. What do you mean you found another god?" And he ordered him to kill these Christians. He refused to do so. So Maurice, which means Moor in
mm.
Latin,
Oh,
was
I didn't know
was
that.
was beheaded.
Oh,
But during the Crusades, German and Italian knights wore the image of this black saint on their armor.
hmm.
There were stories that knights wrote about their battle with the Moors, and what incredible, valiant warriors they were. The Pope at the time did not want those stories told.
Mm,
You can't hold these people in high reverence, not when we intend to enslave them.
mm,
You have to destroy their history.
mm.
You have to demean their nobility.
Wow. Wow. what impact do you think that that has, not just on us? A lot. Let me preface it this way. A lot of people don't know why it's important to 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 know that there was nobility, credibility, and things like that. And I often look at the opposite side of the coin. If we don't know that about ourselves, then other people don't know that about us as well. Let me change the question. Do you find that learning this history is a shock to a lot of people, or do you think that people always
Yeah,
know it, but now they have to acknowledge it?
it shocked me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
my, my what?
Yeah.
But then once you understand, the thinking, then what I immediately start to do is to reframe it.
Mm,
And I begin to I begin to look at, wow, it makes me appreciate my ancestors so much more. They went up against not only the physical, but the psychological and
mm,
systematic
yeah.
abuse, that they are still powerful people. I mean, I just think about the magic of how, in my knowing my grandparents and my parents, realizing now as an adult what you deal with in the world and navigate a career, to navigate paying your bills, to navigate remaining a person of integrity when
Mm,
everything wants to force you into something else. I see what they lived with, and yet in our home there was always love.
mm, mm. I think that's amazing. That's the kind of strength that you'll hear, like, we're not the same as the generation before us, or we hear about our grandparents and all that, and even families today have changed a lot, but that's the kind of strength that I always think of when I think of, say, when I was growing up, versus sometimes when we look at things today. I know media has a lot to do with that, but that's powerful. You're the general manager of WCSU, still on the still doing the thing in media, and you're bringing your event to Central State University. In just 1 minute, we're going to bring on the director, John Fleming. But what do you want? I want to talk about WCSU. What do you want, or what is that station, and what do you want it to do for the community and abroad?
We're in the current battle for democracy.
Mm,
And I use moments and music and events to remind the audience that Clayton Powell recommended to President Eisenhower and the State Department that during the Cold War, when he saw how jazz clubs were attracting people of many cultures and races to those clubs, he saw the power of jazz. So he recommended that jazz artists like Duke Ellington and Dizzy Gillespie become ambassadors, and Louis Armstrong, ambassadors of jazz,
mm,
to spread democracy, to fight communism during the Cold War. And so I like the station to be a reminder of our contributions
mm,
to our own democracy. And I also want the station to be a source for students to have hands-on experience, to learn how to compete and contribute in the global marketplace of media.
wow. Well, your event coming up, Reunion Journey with the Ancestors, is going to be, I'm sure it's going to be nothing but stellar. And today we have joining us director John Fleming. Let's get him on. Hey, hey, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, wow, this is such an amazing piece. You're the director. What do you want the audience to get out of it?
It's about one person's story, Charles Fox's story, which I think as viewers can tell by now, is a very deep and amazing story of his ancestry, shall we say, from Africa to Wilberforce, Ohio, and with many stops in between. And Charles and I have known each other for a couple of years during which I heard his story in different places and different parts of it, and realized that this is a story that is amazing, that he knows very well from his research. And also, I might add, from the director's point of view, that he is an amazing storyteller.
Mm.
Accompanying the story, the show, I should say that there is not an actual script for the show. It's a scenario that Charles takes us through, accompanied by over 60 slides
Mm.
that um, that parallel the story. So it's told both with words and also visually.
Mm.
Um, and I guess it's my job as the director to. It's almost like sometimes I feel more like a teamster. It's like I'm taking this amazing story and I'm shaping it so that the media and the story coincide.
Mm. Charles, for you in the process, it sounds a little bit different than I guess what I had anticipated in my mind. So you're going to be presenting. Is telling this type of story to an audience, even with your, your celebrated background, is telling this kind of story and this kind of true journey to an audience? Is it? Are you cautious? Are you excited? Are you nervous?
All of the above.
Oh, come on.
Really, I mean, I never. When John said, "What do you think of bringing your story to the stage?" I was humbled. I felt grateful that he appreciated the value of the story. But I'm not a person that's out in front.
Mm.
I've always been in the background. I write the story, I produce the story, but you never even know I exist.
Mhm.
And now I'm out front, and it's sharing very personal and often explores taboo
Mhm.
topics
Sure.
not often accepted in society, in mainstream society. I'm talking about the world of dreams, things that I encounter. I'm talking about encounters with my ancestors,
Mm.
live encounters, and they've been gone, or I never met them in the physical, but the evidence of their guiding me, and I will show it. But
Mm.
at the same time, I've collected, and the images are not images from other sources. They are actual documents of when I was arrested in Uganda,
Mm.
the soldiers that arrested me. I have the actual inventory of slaves and property from my meeting at having a cup of coffee with a coworker one day and discovering that she was the descendant of the family that owned my ancestors,
Wow.
and how that opened that door. And the process is done in 4 parts: innocence, awareness, anger, and forgiveness.
That is powerful. John, you work on a lot of different projects with Central State. From your angle and from what you see, why is it so important that that the whole of stories and the whole of, I guess, humanity and the whole of perspectives is put on display? Because you're behind a lot of different productions that does just that. Why is that so important to you?
Well, in its kind of original essence and its beginnings, theater is about storytelling, and we all have one.
Mm.
We all have a story. Some families are very open about sharing their story, and some families are kind of secretive about it. So it's important for me to present someone like Charles, and it Central State usually does a small show in the winter. I call it the Winter Project. It wonderfully coincides with Black History Month this
Mm.
February, to have Charles come up there and tell his story. And a lot of us don't have time to go into who our stories are like that in the way that he's done that deep research. So for me, having Charles on the stage is a moment of reflection about how we all have a story. And that
Mhm.
story is the deeper you look into it, the more you find out about it. Um, And in addition to that, one of the aspects of this particular show is I'm sure people will be inspired, and I hope they are inspired to tell their own story. And if they want to, we'll be ready. Um, Out after the show, there'll be a talk back with Charles, of course, but then there'll also be a video camera set up, kind of not in the actual recital hall, but out in another location. And we're inviting people to tell their story
Mm.
in a way that they want, and that'll become part of the document of this evening.
Mm. This event is in collaboration with media artist Elias Kelly. When is this going to happen? Where is it? How can we get there? What do we do?
Okay, here's the basics. It's Saturday, February 10th at 7 p.m.
Mhm.
It's in the Paul Robeson Cultural Center, but it's not in the auditorium. It's in the recital hall, which is right next to the auditorium. Um, the easiest thing to remember is when you walk in the door of the Robeson Center, just walk up the steps. There's 4 steps, and it's right there. And there'll be the table there, the box office table there. One nice thing is that um, parking restrictions do not take place on weekends. So if you park at a place that says you need a permit, you don't.
Mm.
You can park there and just walk to the cultural center. There are some signs that say reserved for vice president or president. I recommend not parking there in particular, but there's quite a few other places to park, and that's kind of the basics. Um,
Mm.
if people have any questions, mine email is jfleming, jfleming at centralstate.edu. And I should add that entrance is by donation at the door. So if you don't feel like you have enough money, don't worry about it. It's volunteer to put in a donation or not. You can put in
Mm.
as small as you want or as big as you want.
Wonderful. And for those of you listening and watching, you'll have all of that information when you go to thephillipshow.com. You'll be able to see it, get it. And it's also going to be live streamed. Am I correct?
That is true. People who want to see the live stream should go to the Central State Facebook page, and
Okay.
that'll link them.
Got it. And I'll make sure that that's on the landing page for everybody as well. So before we go, I have one question for each of you. Okay, it's going to be a big one. Mr. Fox, linking all of these years and all of these events and all of these memories, if you will, together, and we're here in 2024, looking forward, what does better look like to you?
May I take the privilege of making a twist
Yes,
and say, what does it feel like? What does better feel like?
I love it.
Because if it feels right, you're on the right path.
Mm.
I have been in many situations like this event coming up where I cannot tell what it's going to look like when I get there, right? But it feels right.
Mm. So trust your feelings. That's wonderful. That's hard. That's a whole conversation in and of itself. That's very difficult, but I totally get it. John, a quick question for you. With so many diverse projects, and you're in the arts, you're presenting all of these things. You're working collectively with so many brilliant young artists, young producers. In this time, we're bombarded with a lot of narratives. We're bombarded with a lot of choices. Kids, grown-ups have the opportunity to go down so many different roads that it can get confusing, and we can sometimes lose our humanity along the way. as an encouraging word to people, what is one thing when you look out, you say, hold on to this? What is one thing that you would encourage people just to hold on to?
First of all, I'm glad you didn't ask me the same question you asked Charles. So I have to go back to the idea of storytelling, and yeah, I'll give an example. A few years ago, I was driving past Canton, Ohio, and I thought, might as well stop at the NFL Hall of Fame. I've been watching football my whole life, and I walked in, and of course, you see people wearing T-shirts from other teams, and you make this immediate judgment. Oh, he's a so and so, or they're a so and so fan, and then once you start talking to them, you start laughing and high fiving and all of that. And so once you find out, I guess the answer to your question is, you know, we can't help but make these immediate judgments on people. That's just the way life is. If it might be pejorative, might just be an associative judgment. But once we find out their story, then it changes things. And I'm actually sixth generation from New Orleans, Louisiana, and hearing Charles's story had made me think about mine. Hearing his story has reflected on me and what mine is and how mine might fit into his, and at least how it fits into mine. So talking to people is important, and sharing is important.
Talking to people and sharing, absolutely. Mr. Fox,
Yes, sir.
and John, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having the courage to not only share this story, but also produce it and make it in such a way where it seems to be so relatable and attainable. And John, for you even providing the space for people to even share their story when they come to the event. That's truly incredible.
Yeah,
I'm grateful to both of you. Thank you.
don't be shy. The camera will be there, and you won't have an audience. This will be just you and the camera. But be
I won't be.
present.
I won't be there.
No pressure. Well, I can't wait to hear how it goes and to see the results. We never know what the seeds that we sow will do for the crop of the future. And I'm just so excited that people are able to see what you have to hear and to experience your work in real time. So that's awesome.
Philip, I want to thank you for your show, the Phillip O'Rourke Show, because you've sustained it and it's great. And you're enriching our lives and our community.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So that was Charles Fox and John Fleming. Wow. Storytelling and Changing Lives Reunion Journey with the Ancestors, written and performed by Charles Fox, is going to be on February the 10th at 7 p.m. at the Paul Robeson Cultural and Performing Arts Center at Central State University. It'll also be live streamed. And here's my takeaway. And John said it, and it mirrors what we do here. We all have a story. The courage to share the story, as well as the permission for other people's stories to be shared in their entirety, is where we should find ourselves challenged. Make sure that we do that so we all can see exactly what humanity is, what it looks like, the textures, and also the journeys that are very common to all of us. So as usual, you are the best you in the world, and I will see you next time here on The Phillip Show.
Don't